Okay, next up, offensive supports. Once again, it's for group PvE, so kind of like open world meta events, fractals, raids, strike missions, whatever you're doing. And... yeah. New tip. Well, no, not that one. That one. Let's go. So, Weaponmaster Training has arrived. And people saw this coming a mile off, by the way. Great sword on Herald. It's broken. It's absolutely broken. This build does the same amount of damage. It's quickness, how we're talking about here. It does the same amount of damage as DPS builds. And also very front load. It's very bursty, which is a huge advantage. And it's power. Again, another advantage. Power builds in general. You want your build to be power. So it's fast. Still gives incredible boons. 600 radius, quickness, swiftness, fury, 20 stacks of might, protection, boon extension on the F2, has amazing CC, is insanely tanky, has cleave, can do stability, by the way, at the same time, has 2 blocks now, because you just camp greatsword. It's literally easier to play now than it used to be. You block on greatsword and you block on staff. This actually might... Is this the strongest build in the game? I think I said that about Quickness Herald last time, and it actually might be true again. Yeah, this build is crazy. It's completely ridiculous. I love it. It's honestly so much fun to play. Greatsword's a really fun weapon, to be honest. It's one of the most broken builds in the game. You know, Druid and Scourge, Grim saying that in the chat, he's not wrong. They're all in competition with that. But yeah, this build is absolutely broken. I don't think anything even touches this, to be honest. Like, I don't think there's anything, like, if we kind of go here to S tier, I'm just going to leave that blank, right? I don't think there's anything that actually touches this. Outside of that, it's actually like very much like a tier ahead of everything else that exists. I don't really see anything else being there. Ooh, maybe with the notable exception of the new pistol Weaponmaster Alack DPS Scourge. This build is insane. Ooh, this build actually is insane. I don't think it's not as good as Herald, but actually, no, it does deserve to be here. Not as good as Herald. Yeah, it definitely is there. So this build is incredibly strong, actually. This build does, I think, like 33, 35k DPS. It might be even more than that, actually. Crazy damage, has all the barrier as well on top of that. All the Scourge goodness as well, of course. Has other peripheral boon access. One of the things that's really nice on this, actually, is really nice. This build can actually go ahead. Oh, it's 37k. Thought it was like 35, but hey, Relic of Akeem is pretty good, huh? And I guess I better mention that. You're going to see a theme here. Power builds just basically got crept up a little bit by Thief Relic and, of course, by Fireworks Relic. Condi builds got juiced the hell out, okay, because of Relic of Akeem, which means whenever you land a CC on a target that has Torment and Confusion on it, you get a massive DPS increase. So Condi builds have gone completely out of control. Is absolutely wild build. I do think that Herald is better simply because it has so much, its power for a start, and has so much incredible boon access. But Herald is very, very strong, actually. Scourge is very, very strong. I love the Aegis, too. Like, that's one, it's so funny. The Snake ability, the Serpent Siphon, you give a little Aegis every 20 seconds, along with a bit of barrier. Crazy how strong that is. Like, that went from one of the worst skills in the game to, I think, actually one of the best skills in the game, unironically, very, very quickly. And the fact that it's on Scourge makes it even better, because Scourge is already packed with value on top of that. So this is probably, honestly, it's my top pick, I think, alongside Specter. Ooh, you know, Specter is actually arguably better than this build. To be honest. But yeah, this build obviously also in the same way. It's a condition alacrity build, massively prioritized, gained value, of course, from the Akeem Relic and the new rune set. Oh, I guess I should say that too. Turns out Trapper Rune is also really juicy power creep as well for a lot of condition builds. as well, and just like the way that relics and runes work now is just in general some power creep, right? You just get a lot more damage on a lot of these condition builds just because of just the way the gearing has changed. But anyway, I digress. Specter, also incredibly good. Make no mistake, even though this says not as good as Herald, these two are definitely a cut above the rest in terms of their power level. Specter, I think, is really notable for its incredible crowd control. Access on this build. You just swap over to your pistol and that break bar doesn't exist anymore, which is obviously amazing because that offloads that from healers and DPS so they can do other things, that they can perform their function better. Has good boon access too, by the way. You know, you have you're not really relying on wells anymore, but you still are applying might, fury, swiftness, vigor uptime on this build as well. You have stability access too. Can be a little finicky to get value out of that stability, but it can be done if you kind of like predict it and use your abilities correctly and line up that stability in your shroud when you actually need it. Very, very strong, and obviously does pretty colossal DPS as well. Yeah, downside here is that, again, with Specter, it has limited AoE compared to something like Scourge, where Scourge has incredible AoE and also awesome durability on top of that. But yeah, those two, unbelievably good. Let's see, what else are we doing now? What is coming up next? I think going into S tier, because actually these are the builds, I think these builds are really popping off, actually. In terms of, like, the category of build that's doing the best, I actually want to say that offensive supports are the best type of build in the game in terms of overall power level. And I think that's actually not that surprising. I think it's been going that way for a while now. That's not anything super new, but I think it's really kind of ramping up now, which, funnily enough, I actually think is a good thing. Now, you might be thinking, wait, Teapot, do you not dislike power creep? And I think damage power creep, I think they got to be a little bit careful with. It just kind of breaks old encounters. I mean, old raids and strikes, they can barely function at this point with the amount of damage. They just don't work anymore. They're just getting, they can't do anything, right? Same with fractals. Right. But I think with boon and support creep, I actually think offensive supports being strong is good because it offloads a little bit of power so that healers don't get so restricted and bottled into having to do every single boon in the game and every mechanic in the game and every utility in the game all in one build, because that just really reduces build diversity overall. So I actually do think that making these builds really strong actually is good, to be honest. But yeah. Mech is still in S tier, in my opinion. This is the power alacrity mechanist. I think this build is still really, really strong overall. It just is a very, very good all-round build. Not a high benchmark, but it really makes up for it in terms of its reliability and just overall value that it brings to the table, in my opinion. In that regard, very, very good. You should play the build, or don't. I guess it really is entirely up to you. Firebrand in a similar situation, in my opinion. I think Firebrand, I want to say, a little bit better than Mech. Mech, its low damage actually is starting to become a slight downside. It's definitely on the weaker end. It hasn't got weaker. It didn't get nerfed. It's that everything else kind of got better, right? And that is not exactly ideal in that regard, but still very strong. Firebrand, very similar. I mean, you're never going to get rid of this build, are you, right? You know, it's Guardian, it's Firebrand, it's got the utility, does very good damage, has a lot of flexibility in utility skill choices. You can do Aegis, you can do stability, right? You can heal a little bit, you can Condi cleanse, you can CC pretty well if needed. Just all around very, very good. That one's not going anywhere anytime soon, in my opinion. Let's see, what do we want to do next? Yeah, let's throw a couple of things into A tier. I think Harbinger is A tier. I think it has very... Ooh, is that true? Actually, it does so much damage. It does so much damage, actually. But it kind of doesn't, honestly, compared to some of the other options. Yeah, it does a lot of damage. I think it has to go in S tier, purely on just the output that it can bring to the table. This build absolutely slaps. Obviously benefited massively from the Akeem Relic, because it can activate it very consistently, very easily. And of course, like the new, the Trapper Rune as well. It's very good. Damage is very, very good, in my opinion. With this one, but not very high utility. Right, not very high utility overall. Let's see, what's coming up next? What do I want to do? Tempest. This build actually did get buffed, by the way, with the launch of the expansion. They made it do even more damage. It now gets 25% more damage when you apply an aura to an ally. And you kind of have that up most of the time. This build does hit pretty hard. I do think its usability is holding it back a little bit. It's probably not on par with these ones, I think. However, yeah, the problem is that giving it more damage... Oh, wait, do they only... Wait, or do they only buff the... Oh, no! I thought they buffed the other one. Oh, no, I got it wrong. I think I read the patch notes, but just misunderstood. They buffed the Grandmaster trait. No! That sucks. Wait, hang on. I need to quickly check that. Oh, what a disaster. I actually got a little bit excited about that. I guess I didn't read the patch notes well enough. Oh, no. What a disaster. Oh no, they only buffed... they only buffed Transcendent Tempest. I thought they buffed Tempestuous Aria. Oh, it's still A tier, though, in that case. I was really thinking, ooh. No, okay, unlucky. It's good. It has a lot of value, in my opinion. This is one of the builds that I think is actually rather cool. It definitely, one of the issues that it has, it gets a lot of its damage from utility skills. So you actually have big trade-offs to swap those utility skills out, whereas a lot of these builds up here don't. They basically have no trade-off for, for taking more utility or taking different utilities, or very minor trade-offs, whereas Tempest has to make some pretty big compromises in order to kind of get more value onto the build. That definitely takes it down a notch. I think Scrapper is in A tier as well. Very good build, but bad news. All of its competition, notably Herald, got massively power crept, and it didn't that much. So as a result of that, it has essentially fallen, and it cannot get up. But I'm sure they'll buff it at some point. Or maybe they'll nerf Herald. Maybe they'll never nerf Herald, guys. Maybe they never nerf Herald. Ever. Chronomancer. This is actually a weird one. This is a really weird one. So, Chrono in speedruns and high-end play is S tier without a shadow of a doubt. Without a single shadow of a doubt. However, I feel that for regular play, it is a little bit less usable than a lot of these other builds. What I really like about stuff like this, you'll notice here, Herald, Scourge, Specter, Firebrand, Harb, Mech, all of these builds are just amazing all the time, in any squad, anywhere, in any universe. Just always. They're always good. Whereas Chrono, I think, does require a little bit more of careful consideration with how you set up your squad, and also how your team is playing in general. And also does have it has some intolerance on execution on how the fight goes. So I think I'm going to go ahead and give it A tier. However, I will say that this is in a lot of situations, this build is incredibly good, but it does require... It needs to be comfy. It needs to be a comfy scenario, as I think Chrono actually ends up losing some value in kind of like pug-oriented groups. So that's why I'll go ahead and put it in A tier for now. I could definitely be very easily convinced to put this in S tier overall. Okay. Next. I think we can just put quite a lot of stuff in here. Yeah, Renegade... Untamed is mediocre. Renegade is mediocre. Bladesworn is mediocre. Again, actually quite strong in more organized play, but on its own, kind of in a vacuum, I think relatively unimpressive. Willbender is also mediocre, I think, in this regard. Dog tamed. Renegade is very good in fractals. That's its redeeming feature, but overall, I'm not that impressed by it. Ah, yeah, here we go. And let's see, Druid. Druid, yeah, it's probably the higher end of B tier. Higher end of B tier, but this is where it is. One of the builds I was kind of hyped for feel like it didn't really connect. You know, this particular one, it hasn't really worked out yet. I was like, oh my god, it's going to be Scourge 2. You know, spoiler alert, it wasn't Scourge 2. Okay, you know, it wasn't Scourge 2. Unfortunate. You know, you really hate to see that one. You hate to see it. Yeah. I guess Renegade does do a lot of damage. Like, you know, this is true, actually. I was too harsh on Renegade. Renegade is promoted. I'll put it in A tier. There you go. Renegade is in A tier. Boom. Mirage, unlucky tier. To be clear, it's not actually unplayable, by the way. It's not unplayable. But it is... you know, it suffered a heavy loss. Okay, you know, the confusion changes were not kind to Mirage. They really weren't. You know, that was a little bit rough. You know, you definitely hate to see that one. That build will be back, though. To be clear, it's a pure numbers issue, by the way. Like, the value this build has is actually very high. However, as soon as the numbers get fixed, this build's going to be back. So don't be surprised when it comes back, by the way. It will be back very, very soon. Okay? Berserker. This is a really weird one. I think this build is very average in normal play. In high-end play, for more try-hard runs, it gets a lot better, a lot quicker. And then it will go up into A or S tier, in my opinion. On its own, I don't think it's actually very impressive. It probably stays here in B tier. Doesn't really do that much. Does have some CC, of course, which is always nice, but that's where it's staying, okay? And I think our final build... Oh, yeah, Quickness Deadeye. Oh, yeah. Yeah, unlucky. Yeah, it had its time in the sun, didn't it? But, yeah. Nothing lasts forever, huh? Unlucky. I think it actually might be... It actually is unlucky tier, actually. Yeah, these are all better than that. Like, they're all better. Dude, Deadeye used to be really good, but then it was punished for the sins of full DPS Deadeye, I guess. Although, it was punished for its own sins, but it never got its redemption arc, I guess. It didn't come back. Willbender is better than those. The chat is right. Willbender is better than B tier. Catalyst. I think Catalyst is also going to go in A tier as well. Yeah, it definitely was. It definitely will. Because bear in mind, one thing that's really nice for Elementalist builds, actually, is that you have Warhorn on all Ele builds now. So you actually get to use Warhorn. Right? You actually get away with that. So you have the additional value of sharing the 25 Might and Fury out to further extend it and to increase your stat count to everyone, but also you have Boon extension at the same time. So yeah, Catalyst is about here, I think. Willbender... I feel like Willbender is better than B tier. It can be at the top of B tier. It's either low A or high B. Simple as that, my friends. Simple as that. But yeah, Catalyst, actually quite cool. Elementalist, definitely one of those professions that really likes Weaponmaster Training. Well, maybe you really like it because, you know, now you play Sword Warhorn on every single Ele build. Maybe you hate it because you play Sword Warhorn on every single Ele build. Definitely a bit of one of the downsides of this type of change is that, well, you know, if one weapon is really good, you will be seeing a lot of it. Okay, yeah. Very nice. Very, very nice indeed. We love to see it. I think Bladesworn is rising to the kind of the top of this tier, I think. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that'll do. Untamed is probably towards the weaker end. Yep, this seems about right. Mech is the weaker end of S tier. You know, I could arguably like swap Mech and Chrono, to be honest, but I don't know. You can look, you should take your own headcanon and headcanon this tier list, right? Like then everyone can be happy, right? Everyone can be full of joy and full of happiness. You know, it's good. Yeah. Listen. we're all allowed our copium, okay? And my copium is that Condi Alak Druid exists. That was a build that I found interesting, but it's not actually that good, unfortunately. In fact, it's actually very bad, regrettably. The build does not really function, to be honest. So, you know, that Grandmaster trait, you know, it feels pretty bad to not have that Grandmaster trait, you know? It's, yeah, it's not exactly where you want to be. Yeah. But that's where it is. All right. That's the deal. That's the tier list. I think we got all of them, right? Yeah, we got everything. Everything has been completed. All of the tiers have been completed. You know, I feel like the tier is kind of stretched out a little bit. Everything was quite compressed to the center in the previous one, but now we've got a little pyramid, you know? Oh, wait, hang on. Oh, wait. Oh, hang on. Hang on. What? We need to demote something. We gotta demote. Should we just demote Druid? Oh, which is the worst build here? It has to be downgraded so we can make the pyramid. Oh, it's not a pyramid though. It doesn't really work. We need one up here as well. We need like another build. Otherwise it's not a pyramid. I give up. I'm not doing it. You know, abandon the pyramid. Oh, we could, I mean, that kind of works too, right? Then it's work. Oh, okay. We'll put like a terrible offensive support. Wait, but there's none left. I'm just going to put Core Engie in there for the aesthetic, guys. There we go. Enjoy. There we go. Look, we're going to put this in the YouTube thumbnail and just confuse people, all right? Okay, oh, yes. I'll put Core Guardian in. That's a good meme, actually. I like that. Yeah, we're just going to put that in there and just bamboozle people. All right, there we go. We're done. That's it. Core Guardian, new build on the scene, guys. We'd love to see that. That's the offensive support tier list. It's been locked in. It has been completed. These builds are probably going to continue to increase in power. Herald probably getting nerfed. Scourge probably getting nerfed. Specter actually might not. I actually expect that this is going to come down a bit. This is going to come down a bit. Specter might get nudged a bit, not that much. And I think their big efforts are going to be making this stuff better. Like A and B tier, expect to see some pretty big buffs to these. But I do think that they need to focus on usability. A lot of what's holding these builds back isn't really even numbers. Like, these builds have some pretty good numbers on them. But the thing is that the builds up here, and I feel like we say this ad nauseum, right? It's all about the value. It's all about the utility, the flexibility, the range of boons access, like the lack of trade-offs with swapping in or out when it comes to a utility skill or an ability or a weapon or something. And that's what makes these ones really, 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 really strong. And that's where a lot of these kind of crumble. Where they can be very powerful situationally, but they crumble when you kind of hold them up as a in a vacuum, all squads, all times, all places offering. And if that gets improved, then actually, I think you'll see that these builds end up being really, really good anyway. But look, let's be honest. Everyone's only going to play the best build because that's just how we do things here in Guild Wars 2. We only play the mess, almost overpowered build. Classic Guild Wars 2 situation. But anyway, that's it. Offensive support tier list, done. Complete.